After the second war between the Vala and Melkor, his fortress of Autumno was utterly destroyed, and lands were submerged beneath the sea, and new highlands rose in the north. And Melkor was taken to Valinor, and there he was judged to remain in the halls of Mandos for 3 long ages. Then the Vala debated on what should be done next, and they decided that the firstborn, the elves, should be brought to Valinor and there to dwell in the light of the 2 trees forever. But they were at first unwilling to hearken to the messengers, for they had seen the Vala only in their wrath, and preferred the lands of Cuvienen to the rumor of the 2 trees of Valinor. And so the Vala chose emissaries among them to come to Valinor and to see for themselves its glory. And these were Ingwe, Finwë, and Elwë, who afterwards were kings. The heralds returned to Cuvienen and told there all that they had seen, and encouraged their kindreds to journey west to Valinor. But many refused, and these were called the Avari, the unwilling. Those that went were arrayed in 3 hosts. All of Ingwe's kin journeyed west. They were the foremost, yet smallest group. In Valinor they became known as the Vanyar, the fair elves. Finwë's kin followed close behind, and they became known as the Noldor, the deep elves. Elwë's kin was the largest, and so he shared the governing with his brother Olwë. Yet many stayed behind, and some turned back early, and because they always tarried behind on the road, they were called the Teleri. Orome continued to lead the 3 hosts westward across Middle-earth, often halting for long periods when Orome left them to attend to other matters, eventually passing through the northern wood which would become known as Greenwood the Great, and reaching the river Anduin, they beheld far off the mountains of mist, which were loftier in those days, for they were reared by Melkor for the hindrance of the riding of Orome. There on the river shores the Teleri halted, but the Vanyar and Noldor continued westward, over the mountain passes into Eriador, and then over the arid Luin, the Blue Mountains, into Beleriand, and there they rested for many years. Meanwhile, Lenwë led some Teleri down the Anduin, and they were known as the Nandor, those who turned back, and were scattered throughout the land, possibly some becoming the ancestors of the Sylvan elves of Mirkwood and Lorien. Ages later, the people of Denethor, son of Lenwë, crossed the arid Luin into Osiriand, and became known as the Loriquende, the Green Elves. But most of the Teleri continued westward into Beleriand. There, at the bidding of Ulmo, Ossë uprooted an isle in the Bay of Balar and used it to bring the Vanyar and the Noldor to Valinor. The Teleri were sad at being left behind, and many dwelt with their lord Elwë in the forests of Beleriand, and some on the coast on the Great Sea with his brother Olwë. When Ulmo finally returned after many years, many were unwilling to go. Many of the Teleri then went forth to Valinor upon the isle, but they began to miss their familiar lands. So, at their bidding, Ulmo rooted the island in the Bay of Eldamar, and it was called Tol Eressë, the Lonely Isle. The Vala then opened the mountains so that the Teleri could receive the light of the trees. Eventually, the Teleri were drawn to the light, and Ossë taught them shipbuilding, and they went to Valinor and there founded Alcrolande, the haven of the shipwrights. And so it was that the Vanyar came to dwell in Valmar, the city of the Valar in Valinor. And also in Valinor, in the Pass of Light, was built the city of Tirion, where dwelt the Noldor. And on the shores of Valinor dwelt the Teleri of Alcrolande. Elsewhere in Beleriand, Elwë had gone missing, and his people searched for him in vain. He finally emerged from the forest of Nan Elmoth, where he had spent years with Melian the Maya. And he had no longer any desire to return to Valinor and behold the light of the two trees. For with Melian he was content, and he was renamed Elwë Singolo, Thingol Greymantle, and he became lord of all the elves of Beleriand, and Melian his queen. So he alone of all the children of Iluvatar was bound with one of the Ainur, who were with Iluvatar before all others. And from their union came the fairest of all the children of Iluvatar that ever was or shall ever be.